you ever wondered why your website doesn't appear in top answers in Google when you search it? And I don't mean like keywords, backlinks, anything like that. Sometimes even when you write website name itself, it's not in the top 5 results. Today I'm going to talk about that and how you can change it. My name is Evgeny. Let's dive into the topic. So, besides regular SEO, to rank higher on Google, you usually need a fast website. And Google says it so themselves. In ranking results, they say our systems look if content loads quickly, which is important for mobile users and other page experience aspects. So let's see why the web page speed matters, how you can measure it, what is the main improvement point for almost every website, and how you can optimize the website performance scores with plain HTML and rank higher in Google search subsequently. Okay, how would you measure the speed of a website? Well, it's pretty simple. If you have Chrome, if you use Chrome, if you open DevTools using F12, uh, somewhere in here in the menu there will be a plugin called Lighthouse. And it generates a report which shows how fast your website is for several criteria. And if you don't use Google Chrome, you can also go to PageSpeed Web Dev, which is pretty much exactly the same thing. Just write down any website name and it will show the score. I went to Reddit today and I looked for recent posts in subreddit for small businesses and I clicked just random websites that from people who were asking SEO tips from some expert, not me. And I don't know anything about the owners or their business, but I'm showing them only for the sake of example. So let's look at their performance in the Lighthouse. So this is one of them. The performance is ranked as 53, accessibility 79. Then the other one. Here's a little better. It's 69, but still in the orange color, which means it's still like leaves something to be desired. Then there's also SEO, best practices, and whatever. Another one ranked 73, a little better still. And then there was one website from on the same subreddit. Someone said like, "Oh, now I have very good business and my revenue is high and this and that." And again, I don't know any of them, but I went on their website and their performance is, look at it, much better. It's 95, SEO is 100, best practice is 95. So that shows something. And a while ago, I made a website for my friend who's a film director. So the Lighthouse score for it is, you can see everything is in green and it's like 97, 99, etc. And if you actually write your name on the Google, let's do it, you can see that the website is second here, just after Instagram. It's above your email page, IMDb page, your production company, Facebook, whatever. So clearly, for it really accounts for something, the performance of the website. Which brings us to number 3 here. What is the main improvement point for the most websites? If we'll look into this website, we'll see that largest contentful paint is atrocious 61 seconds. And first contentful paint 10 seconds. Now what does it mean? It means that once you go onto website, the on average connection, the website will be shown and rendered fully only after 10 seconds first and 60 until everything is loaded, which is very bad. And the same goes for here. The lowest scores are for first contentful paint and largest contentful paint. And what are those generally? Generally, it's images. And you can see here that if he will serve images and next-gen formats, you can save this much. If you encode this much, if you size them properly, then this much. Basically, it means that the main culprit is media files and in particular images or like GIFs if you have some. Because it can take literal dozens of seconds to load on slower connections. And there are several ways to reduce load times, but the most important is properly sizing the images and creating thumbnails when you need them. So how would you do it? And the question is, how would you find out the perfect size for thumbnails? And the short answer is that it's complicated, but good news is that you don't need to be a genius programmer or SEO master or anything to achieve high scores. In fact, all you need is often just HTML, some time, and the tips that I'm about to tell you. So, and the issue here is that you need to compromise between quality and size often, and you need to adhere to different type of devices because it can be mobile, laptop, it can be iPhone, can be some Android phone, can be newer, older, whatever. There are billions of devices today. Good news is you don't have to be like perfect in estimating your image sizes. You just need to be reasonable enough, and then you'll get the good scores and high speed on your website. So let's dive into how would you start with trying to estimate proper thumbnail sizes that you need for the website. Also, stay tuned for the end of the video where I'll show you how to squeeze out last drops of performance by adding just a couple lines to your HTML. So I created simple website locally to show you and showcase about how would you do that. First and foremost, the DevTools in Chrome is very powerful, and probably in other browsers it's pretty good as well, but I'm using Chrome here. Here you can, there is a button to toggle device toolbar in which you can select any of the devices that it can be on and just make it responsive to do bigger screens. It just will simulate like 4K. You can simulate 4K screen or something. You can simulate iPad or older iPhone, whatever. So to find the appropriate resolution for your image, what I would suggest you to do is to go to your website, look at the images and their placeholders, and in DevTools use the inspect element. Look at the size that it says here. So 960 by 540, and take into account the screen that you're using. So my screen is 2K. Then you can go to the device toolbar and emulate one or two other devices that you're planning that you want to adapt it for. So let's say you want 1600 by 900, which would be like a regular laptop. Then you do the same, you look here and see resolution of your images here in rendered size. So after that, look up some mobile ones, for example iPhone. Now here is the tricky part. You can notice here there is also a thing that says DPR, which is device pixel ratio. Now if you select any of these, you'll see that it says 430, but it doesn't mean that it's 430 pixels would be looking good, because you actually need to multiply that sizes that it shows by the DPR when you're dealing with mobile devices. And most modern devices have some DPR which is not one like regular monitor screens, but between 2 and 3. So you can see that iPad mini has 2, iPhone Pro Max has 30, has 3, Galaxy Fold also has 3. So to properly account for them, you need to take this size that you see here and multiply it by DPR. So let's say you calculated around 3 different resolutions for your images and made them this size. Does it mean that they are good and optimized? Well, not necessarily, because I will show you now how much of a difference can other things make. So here is the original picture that was for the website, and it's in PNG format, which is lossless, and it's 7 megabytes here. So it's very large picture, and if you just turn it into JPEG without any compression, then it looks pretty much the same, as you can see, but it actually is already 2 megabytes. So it just going from lossless format to lossy JPEG made it over 3 times smaller. But it doesn't stop here, because this one is 100% quality, the best that it can be. But even JPEG has different compression levels, and you can further compress it. And most of the times you would want to compress it a little bit, because it doesn't really make that much difference in quality, but it can make very big difference in the size of the file. So here I compressed it down to 80% quality versus 100. So here's 80, here's 100. Probably you don't see any difference, but it's now only 370 kilobytes. So I made it 7 times smaller just using that. And you can see how much, just how much space you would be saving when you resize and lose the compression. If we take 1500 resolution now, it's only 160 kilobytes, and 1000 pixels with 80% compression is 77 kilobyte. So we went from 7 megabytes here to 77 kilobytes, which is over 100 times difference. So you would really want to compress your images, and where you can compress them is basically there are a lot of websites where you can just do it for free. If you have Python, I'm doing that in PL library, which is like regular open source library. And when you're saving it, you're passing the quality here. And when I'm saying 80%, I'm just putting 80 as a quality instead of 100 here. And that's how much difference it makes. You can compress it further down, it will look a little worse every time, but 80 looks like a good spot for me. If you don't have Python, or if you use Node.js, there are libraries like Sharp, and if you use like WordPress or something, there's probably some special library for that as well. Or you can just use any of the websites on the internet. And it's not the all of how you can compress it. You can also use WebP, which is like a modern format, and you can see that 1500 JPEG is 160 kilobytes, and 1500 WebP is 70 kilobytes. So it's also smaller, But to me, the quality kind of makes I can see already here that it's more lossy, that the quality is worse. But if you really need to like compress it more and save like extra 30% usually for, then you can use WebP. So let's say now you found reasonable rendered sites for most devices. You decided to go like with 500, 1000 pixels and 1500. Then you optimized your images like I told you, and you uploaded them to from whichware you served, like AWS S3 bucket. Now the question is how to serve the appropriate size to each user and not load the ones that they don't need. And it doesn't matter what you use here. It can be like modern frameworks like React or Vue.js or something. It can be WordPress. It can be a template engine like Jinja 2. There's a way to modify HTML, and it's basically all we need here. So I created for the demonstration purposes a simple page here, and it's made in React just so you can see the how the images changes, but basically that's what you would want to do. So notice here we don't have just image like regularly. You enclose image into a picture HTML tag, and inside the picture you have source and list different sources. So each source has a media query, which is when it will be used. So this source is used when the max width for the screen is 900. And I will use the 500 pixel one here. When it's maximum 1400, it's 1000, 1900, 1500, and for anything more than that, I will use the biggest 2500. Let's see how it looks in practice. My screen is 750 or so, and the image width is 500. Now, after we make it larger over 900, it changes to 1000, and you can see 1000 downloaded as well. And it's now saying current image width is 1000. Then, as it gets bigger, the image also gets bigger, and we're now downloading 1500 image. If you just refresh the screen, you see it downloads 1500, and 1000 is a fallback. I'll tell you about that later. And as you increase it, let's say you make it 2000 here, and now we get our largest image for this width. So if you use the source tag with the src set and media query, then basically you can achieve this. The important thing here is if you don't specify both max width and minimum width, you should go from the smaller ones to the bigger ones, because the first one that satisfies the query will be rendered and downloaded. So if you use both minimum and maximum, it doesn't really matter, I guess. And the fallback image is basically if for whatever reason it couldn't determine the size, or it just didn't load, the image didn't load from here, or maybe if you have WebP and the device doesn't support WebP, it will load the fallback, which is in regular image here. And the good rule for fallback image should be that it should be JPEG, and it should be some either smaller version of it or like average. So it shouldn't be the big image. Yeah. But here's where it gets a bit more tricky. Now you can see that if you will change to iPhone 12 Pro, which has DPI of 3, it still loads 500 pixels, even though as I told you, the actual image that it needs is over 1000 in width, because it's 319 times 3. And I mean, sure, account for the placeholder, but either way it needs to be bigger than 500, and it just loaded the 500 one. We can change it to responsive here, so and see, yeah, now it's just 500. And to deal with that, we need a bit more advanced HTML query. So let's go to our HTML here, and this is what we need to use to account for the DPR. So first let's check it if it actually does anything. Now the width will be a little incorrect because it counts a little weirdly, but we can see here in the network tab and what it's downloading that if we have, for example, 300 with DPI 3, it loads 1500 image, which is what we would want it to. And if it becomes larger considerably, now it loads the largest image already, even though it's just 1100 here. How do we achieve that? So to achieve it, besides our regular media query, we need to add several different options into src set, and they are separated by comma, and you can see here is 1x, 2x, and 3x, which means basically if its DPR is 1 over 2 and 3 or more than that. If we get a screen which is like 500 pixels, like iPhone is supposedly, but its DPR is 3, we will load the 1500. And if it's regular screen, that will load 500. Let's see, like I'll do 899 screen and DPR 1, and I'm refreshing page and you see it loaded 500. But if we change DPR to 2 and update it, it became 1000, and same we do it 3 and now it's 1500. So that's how it works basically. You need to separate them by comma. So use the tips that I told you to calculate the image resolution that will look best for the current size of the device. There are actually more options. If you can see here in the other code that I wrote, you can also target the minimum resolution, and you'll see that DPI is as follows usually. For regular screens 96, for Retina, which is like 2, it's 192, and for over 3 it's this DPI. And you can write a minimum resolution is this amount of DPI to target some specific ones. And your media queries also don't have to be in pixels. You can use several others like EM, REM, and other CSS measurements that are common. So your end result is that your pictures look great on any device. It looks good on 4K, it will look good on a smaller laptop, it will look good on iPhone. But in the case of this website, there is more magic happening here with the CSS to achieve this. So if you think I should make a video about adaptive design, you can leave a comment below. So quick recap of our how-to. First, we estimate image resolution in placeholder. Then we consider our mobile and desktop and whatever the site will be accessed with, you think. Then in our calculations, we should probably include DPR. then compress your images slightly to 80% instead of 100%, which will give you a big gains. Then make 2 or 3 sizes for each image, and then use a picture with media and SRC set. So please leave a like and consider subscribing if you found the video helpful. And for the final tips, so they're very basic, but it can help you a lot as well. So if you know that your image isn't going to be rendered right away, so if it's not this will be iPhone, and the images like this won't be seen once you load it, you can add just a tag of priority low, and the opposite, if you know that they are the ones that will be loaded right away, add priority high. Besides that, add decoding async to pretty much every image. It will help as well. And lastly, if you have a big, as they call it, hero image, or just any image that is you want it to be loaded as fast as possible, you can preload it. And to preload any image, you need to go to your index.html file, and in the head of it, write a link with preload as image and leave href to there. And also you can add fetch priority high. And what this does is basically it loads the image even before your HTML content gets discovered by the browser. Right away, even before it rendered HTML, it starts loading. And what it impacts is in largest contentful paint. Here the load delay will be much smaller and much faster than if you don't do that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, ask me any questions. Thank you for watching.